All right, hey, what's going on, guys? So wanted to do an update on Trump, current events, just some open questions, and just my thoughts still overall of what's going on. And I have had a lot of videos where I've talked a little bit here and there, but I want to make this one sort of update as of now where I stand and what's going on. So a lot of people are confused, they're hurt, they don't know what's going on. They have a distrust of prophetic words. They have a misunderstanding of what's going on in the world. They feel like God has abandoned them. They feel and have a lot of open questions, right? And I've talked about a lot of things in splurts. I've talked about how to understand the times and how there's a battle going on. There's an information war going on. There's a delay for whatever reason. There's a lot of things that are happening, but a lot of people are impatient. They don't get it. They're throwing, different shade, stones, whatever you want to call it, at different people. And a lot of people are still standing firm, even though it looks like, something's crazy. And even a bigger question is, why do you still talk about, these things? Why do you talk about politics? Shouldn't you be focusing in on the gospel? Shouldn't you be doing, X, Y, Z, right? And I've talked about assignments that people have. I talked about how not everybody as a Christian has the same assignment. So that's why you have teachers and you have pastors, you have evangelists, you have prophets, you have apostles, and all the fivefold ministry, right? So you have all these different people that have different assignments, and they're interceding, they're praying. Some people are speaking like I am. I never thought I would do this on YouTube, for one. And there are certain styles, right? And so my style, first, my overall purpose, okay, is for you to pursue God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, strength, soul, mind, and then your neighbor as yourself, right? And so you love and you obey the first and second greatest commandment. So that's the theme of this channel, and that's part of that. Yes, I do talk about the gospel. Yes, I talk about, certain theologies. I talk about application in your life. I do exhortation, I do prophetic word and all that stuff. So I'm not some jack of all trades, but I have a certain assignment to encourage you, and it's a personable way. And so a lot of people, they feel like, they're connected, or they feel like I'm talking to them as if it's one-on-one. I don't feel like I'm, on a pulpit somewhere. I don't feel like I'm some superior holy being or whatever. You guys know me as a brother. You guys know me as somebody vulnerable, somebody that's willing to just get through life, and you see the transparency behind that, right? And so as part of that, that is encouraging other people, and even higher than that, when I talk about life, there's that, but also to understand what's going on around you, because right now in the society we live in today, that is a problem. That is a problem in terms of, polarizing, whether if you want to call it political views, whether you want to call it, viewpoints on, biblical issues. You have just a lot of different things, right? Even in theology, cessationism, continuationism, things like that, and any number of issues. And more than that, there is a war, like I've mentioned, in terms of information. There's a war for your mind. There's a great apostasy, a falling away. There is lukewarmness going on, and we're nearing the end times. And so this as things go on more and more, God is pulling up people, calling them out of random places to step up and to declare boldly, because a lot of people, quite frankly, ministers, pastors, people with, fleshly desires and views, they're not doing well because they have fallen away, quite frankly, from the Lord. And more importantly, they haven't been led by the Holy Spirit. And so that's why even after me, and in parallel with other people around me, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's other ministries in your local communities, they're standing up, they're stepping up, and you have these people that are being yelled at, that are being persecuted and all this stuff. And that's no different than Jesus Christ himself, because if you think you can go in life and everybody can like you and everybody's good for you, and you're doing your best to try to make peace and everything. And Bible talks about, you want to make peace, but you innately, if you preach the gospel message, if you preach truth, then innately you will be persecuted, you will be hated upon. And so that's what's happening with a lot of people, because there's a perception of reality that everybody is anchored to. And quite frankly, because there's such a great delusion that Bible talks about in terms of satanic delusion that people are anchoring themselves off misinformation, the wrong things, and all that stuff. And so I've talked about at some point that those things will be cleared up. And right now in this season, that is in some sense the form in election fraud and all the stuff that the media is trying to cover or not trying to cover. It's in the medical field. It's in, some of the, underground stuff, the drugs and pedophilia and all these different things that are going on, sex trafficking and all that. So there's a war going on in terms of mitigating, suppressing, and diverting and deflecting things so that your attention is on something else. And so Satan is doing that very well. He's giving you, Netflix and Squid Games and all these different entertainment forms to distract you from looking at things for which you should be praying about, that could help other people be discipled and come to know Christ. You would remove things, you would remove barriers. And so that's why a lot of people, because they don't understand it, they brush it aside and they say, oh, no, don't worry about politics. Don't get confused by that, because they don't really understand it. And the safe answer that they want to give is to brush it off and say, no, you shouldn't focus on that, because the reality is in the Bible, in the Old Testament especially, prophets and a lot of stories were based on politics, because the laws of the land and how you dictate and rule over people will help people come to know Christ, to open an area up to, religious freedoms and all this stuff. And it's important. And so you don't want to idolize it. You don't want to make that your first thing. You don't want to go to that all the time, but you have to recognize what God is doing and how he's using certain things in a certain season. So a lot of people are fixated on Democrat, Republican, they're fixated on this stuff. And because there's such a tension, there's such an awkwardness, there's such a, division and all this stuff, the solution people have is just step away from it and just don't, deal with it, don't talk about it, and just focus on Christ. And that's the same thing as if you tell a middle schooler or a child, hey, don't focus on dating, don't focus on marriage, don't do that, don't look at those things. What you're really saying is, at your age, at your level of maturity, in the timing that you have as a middle schooler, that's not applicable for you, and it may distract you from other things. But rather, marriage, dating, or whatever you want to call it, courtship, those things are good innately, and it's redeemed and it's done for the glory of God if you put Christ first, if you allow that so that you can have a healthy marriage in the right timing, in the right season. And so that's the same thing as politics. You have a name, you slap on Rhino, you slap on, liberal, far right, far left, or whatever it is. But because people, they don't really understand the right timing, the right way to say it, how to explain it, they just go about in sort of a cop-out way to say, hey, don't worry about it. Just don't think about it. Just ignore it. Focus on Christ. And it sounds good, but it's the same thing as you telling a middle schooler, no, don't focus on those things. But rather, there's a way you can appropriately say, it's not good if you're distracted by it, if it's too much for you, if you're stressed out about it, if you're overwhelmed by it. Maybe it would be healthy for you to step back and not get into it. But for those that are interested and want to uncover and dive deeper into the truth, and you can handle it, and it won't take you away from your relationship with Christ. It won't take you away from godly things, and it doesn't divide you, and you're strong enough then, and you can handle it, then yes, you can attempt to research and pray through it and dig through it. And so a lot of people are not at that level of maturity. A lot of pastors, because their level of maturity is lower, their understanding of the world and the times is lower, they have to, in some way, have that kind of cop-out. They say, oh, just don't focus on that. I don't understand it, so that means, maybe you don't need to understand it, right? And so a lot of people, that's why there's division right now in church. They're talking about, the jab and the vaccine. They're talking about Q. They're talking about all these different things, and people are so confused. What's going on? And they just brush it off as this satanic attack, and they say it's best just to step away from everything, right? And so, in some sense, for some people, that might be healthy for a time to do. But for you to be able to pray for the world, for you to be able to correctly have a healthy relationship with Christ, and moving around the world and interacting with the world, you have to understand what's going on in the world. And so if you want to elevate yourself to that next level, you have to do that sort of research. And so right now, again, from the prophetic side, right? So for me, like I've said before, I never claimed to be this like, oh, this, world class new like young and budding prophet or whatever it is. I simply show you what the Lord showed me, and if the Lord puts it on my heart, whether it's a prophetic dream, a prophetic word, I declare it and I give it up to the public, and for you to take it, to discern it, take it to the Lord. And if you know me and you've listened to me, you know my heart for the Lord. You know that I'm genuine, that I'm serious, that I have a love and a passion and a desire for the Lord. And a lot of people may agree to disagree, but there's certain things where even though it may be seemingly embarrassing, it may be seemingly unorthodox or whatever it is, this is what the Lord has put on my heart to share. And in some sense, a lot of people say, you'll be redeemed or validated or vindicated soon. And it's not even about me. And a lot of people who have had the same thought, the same revelation as me, they encourage me. And I even see other people who are older, more mature, more wiser, more seasoned. They have other things, right? Prophetic voices, especially those that hear audibly or hear certain words from the Lord, they write that down and they declare that. And so that's an area, I strive to be at in some sense, but I'm in a place where I don't want to just say something just because it's on my mind, as opposed to thus saith the Lord, right? And so this is a different conversation in terms of a lot of people put labels on it, Pentecostal or whatever you want to call it, or other spiritual giftings and things like that, complete church and a complete view and all that. So I don't want to get into that theological debate, but the point is that right now prophetic voices are getting attention in some sense. A lot of people are despising it. But the Bible says do not despise prophecy. But a lot of people are asking questions. And so this is all part of a growing pain that's happening in that realm, in the spiritual giftings, but also to wake people up to say, man, why are people mixing quote unquote politics? Why are people mixing all these issues? Why is there such a battle going on in terms of people arguing? Why can't we just be quiet and tranquil and just go back to church and have fellowship and sing our 2 songs and all this stuff? But we're not at a place like that where God would want us to just have a white picket fence and just have a clean Christianity. We're called to interact with the world. We're called to go out, make disciples of nations, and that's what's happening. And so it's testing a lot of people. It's allowing the wheat and from the chaff to be separated. It's allowing people that have had a mantle to be elevated, to have more talents, to have more blessings and opportunities. And for others who have been wicked, lazy, and haven't sought the Lord, they've sought their own flesh, their own pleasures and things like that. People that have just sought after their own image and their own money and things like that, offerings, thinking about churches and things like that. They want to be politically correct and all that. Those people are being shut down, and those people are the mantle and what they have is being taken from that. I think about the parable of talents. Even what you have shall be taken from you. And so these shiftings are happening. I've talked about that too. The shifting last year prophetically is happening to a lot of churches, a lot of people with ministries and all this stuff. And so that's happening in the spiritual realm, as well as what I've always talked about, which is that there's a shaking, there's a great awakening, and there's a lot of people asking questions and strengthening, more importantly, their faith in Christ. A lot of people are praying more. People are going through the vaccine mandates right now, people getting laid off. A lot of people are asking questions about what's righteous, what's good. I talked about Romans 14. I talked about a lot of things. But all this at the higher level is to get you to wake up, to get you right with the Lord, to get you repenting, to get you to see that you being comfortable, you being cultural, you being told what to do by the false media in terms of what they say and the narratives, propaganda, the misinformation, the blatant misinformation that's happening is around you. And so people are waking up to that slowly, and they're understanding and recognizing the times we live in. And so if you're in a closet, you want to ignore everything, that's up to you, right? I'm not saying you're going to go to hell. I'm not saying you're sinning because you're not digging up what's going on with Trump and all that stuff. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you want to be able to not be distracted, you want to have a prayer life where you are praying not only for your family, yourself, your community, but also for the world. You have to pray correctly, right? In alignment with what Christ and what God is doing in his plan and his will. And a lot of that involves discerning for yourself, getting a prayer life, listening to other, people that have truth and righteousness, and discerning that, right? Even if you think that that person is, bad, they've been slandered, there's been smear campaigns, especially for Trump, right? I read everything he says. Like when he brings out a statement, I just like look at it. And though I may not be in favor of his, personality or whatever, I look at that and say, man, what is this guy doing? Why is it that he's acting in this way? What's going on behind the scenes? There's got to be more to it. And that's what's going on there as well. And so even with that, the spiritual realm, I've talked about that. But in the physical realm, I want to just briefly talk about some of those things. There's a war going on. And I believe that a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are happening with the military. A lot of things are happening covertly. And what's being portrayed on the outside in public and all that stuff, there's sort of a game theory. You don't just go out and just show all your cards and tell people what you're going to do and all this stuff and show your playbook, right? There's a war going on between, if you want to call it the radical left or right, but I say it's more good versus evil because there's a lot of bad people on either side. There's a lot of good people in some sense on either side, but they're trapped. They're being blackmailed, or they're in a loop, like they're in a position that they can't really escape, right? Similar to being in a war. If you're in the German war, maybe you're not even German, maybe you weren't even a Nazi, and you were forced into, that army, and you had to fight, right? So it's in that sense the same, where a lot of people have been, coming out with affidavits and just testimonies, but they're being silenced, they're being ridiculed, and there's smear campaigns all over. So it's a bad, messy battle right now, an information battle, an information war. So a lot of what's going on, you have to really discern, right? And there's a lot of theories, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of patriots and digital soldiers. I've briefly mentioned about I've briefly mentioned about digital soldiers, what people are trying to discern and sort through, like what is really going on, right? And if you can smell the atmosphere, you have Trump doing all these rallies and millions of people are coming and they're just, saying all these different things and nobody's covering it. The media isn't talking about it. No one's talking about Afghanistan anymore. No one's talking about, some of the alternative, medicines or why it is that antibodies, natural immunity and all that stuff. There's some narrative there and it's suspect, right? You look at it and you're like, man, why are they doing this? Like who has the control? People talk about the mainstream media being controlled by 6, organizations or entities. People talk about the globalists, the elites, Rockefellers, or the Rothschilds and all these things, George Soros, a lot of names, and whether you want to call it conspiracies, whether you want to call it all these different things, it's there, right? And you have to sort through that. You have to not just listen to a couple of experts, and then if they say something wrong, then you just kind of cancel everything. It's the same thing as Christianity. I've talked about that. Just because somebody claims to be a Christian and they're a bad representative of that doesn't mean that you just cancel Christianity. You don't cancel God because of 1 or 2 people. The same goes for truth movements. The same goes for all these different things. And so it's hard for a lot of people who don't have time to dig and to look at things, but there's something more going on. I do want to introduce you guys to this new thing that I've been reading. Again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not here to say that this is true or advocate for it, but there's a lot of validity. There's a lot of strong argument there. And so there's this theory called devolution. It's talking about how there is, Trump had set up some way of continuity of government. There's a person, his name is Patel Patriot. He does a lot of research on it. I can link it below. It's in blog format, so it's pretty thick and dense in terms of reading it, but it's sequential, so you can go through it part by part if you are interested in that. And so this is what I talked about in terms of the natural. There's things going on in the spiritual and then things going on in the natural. Some of it is hidden from public eye. Others are theories and others are things that are being pieced together. Other things you can argue, like Q, right, are insiders trying to give the public some sense of, understanding or hope or some truth so that people can start digging and they can start waking up on their own. So things are happening in the natural. And I've said this before as a prophetic word, but it is not what it seems. And if you look at it with Trump doing rallies, with everybody canceling each other, with everybody, even the Facebook news stuff, like how does a person just quickly get on 60 Minutes and then they quickly get to the congressional oversight? Nobody threatens her life, right? And so things like that, there's a lot of things that are suspect. There's a lot of things where when you first hear it and everybody's jumping on it, you question that. You're like, why is it that it's so quick for people to digest? When Trump says something, especially things that are so specific, the number of irregularities and things like that, the number of people, millions of people that are backing him. And again, this is not about Trump. It's not about one man. It's about the movement. It's about truth. It's about exposing. It's about this battle of good versus evil that's being played out right now. And he happens to be one of the figureheads. You can like him as a person or not. You can see his character, his personality as good or bad or whatever it is. But the fact of the matter is there's a movement, right? The same goes for King David. Nobody said he was the perfect guy, but he led the movement. If you would have known that he was cheating, if you would have known he murdered, somebody, Bathsheba, as husband, and just all these different things he did, you wouldn't be following him. Same with Moses. If you learned that he murdered an Egyptian prior to him leading you out of the Red Sea, you would probably be appalled, right? So there are things like that where people are looking and anchoring on the wrong things. There's a big movement going on. And I frankly just want to know the truth in some sense. But then at the same time, we're in a season, spiritually speaking, where God is saying, hey, let me handle it. You got to just get right with me. You got to be still before me. I will be the one that moves. I will be the one that does everything. And as much as I'm here, guys, 9, 10, nearly a year, I'm the kind of guy who's just like, man, I wish I had a nice, quiet life, right? And so I tell people, like, God called me to this. I'm one of many others that are stepping up. And it's not my choice in some sense, right? I am a human. Of course, I make mistakes. Of course, I can always say things better. I can always be more concise. I can always, be, better with my word choice and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I only know a part. I never claim to know all of it. I only declare and I give insight to what the Lord showed me. Other people have pieces, and everybody is trying to make sense of it. But the truth is, no one knows all of it. No one can make sense of everything except the Lord. And so even as I hear other people declare new prophetic word, for me, right now, the Lord has given me a time to not declare things until other things come to pass, especially when Trump comes back. And I believe that. I believe that that's happening still. Even if you're wondering, people have always asked me, have you changed? Have you blah, blah? No, like the same goes with everything I've said, exposure, arrests, injustice, and all this stuff that's happening. I believe that's happening. There's nothing in my spirit to say that that's, not going to happen, but it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of waiting. And I've given one strong prophetic dream where the Lord was showing me that there's been a delay. There's a lot of people on the left side of a room that are worshiping, bowing down to all these different things, all these different movements and all these different ideologies and stuff, except God, except to put him first, to look to him for your redemption, to get right with him, and to make sure that you're waiting on him. And nothing comes easy, right? Same goes for the Israelites when they got out of the Red Sea, as they got to the promised land. It just didn't happen overnight. Things don't happen overnight. And so there's a reason for a delay. There's a reason for allowing people to have time to decompress, to step away, to think through things. A lot of people are angry and upset, hurt, but those things in due time can be redeemed. There's a lot of things going on. Everyone's learning, everyone's growing, everyone's trying to make sense of stuff. But the bottom line is you've got to get right with the Lord. We're in a time right now where you can't just be depending on your favorite news outlet. You can't be depending on your favorite pastor. Everybody's being exposed. Everybody's being humbled. Everybody's learning something. And most importantly, God is getting all the glory, and he's going to be the one that has the last say. And so, again, this is just my heart. I'm just expressing it, guys. I'm just a regular dude, but I have a passion. I have a compassion. I have a passion. I have a desire to do the will of the Lord, and we'll see how things play out. I have a lot of things that I want to share, but the Lord has refrained me from doing that, and so I just am waiting for certain things to pass. And so, again, guys, Stay strong, hold tight. It's a long video. Thank you for bearing through it, but God bless you guys, and I'll talk to you guys very soon.